Welcome to the Diesel Podcast presented by DFC Diesel. John, welcome back to the Diesel Podcast. It's been a while since we chatted last. I thought it was a couple years ago, but it was actually a lot longer. I'm like, where did
Yeah,
all the time go? But welcome back. I look forward to chatting with you today and getting an update, on your case, and we'll kind of go back to the original event that happened and talk through that. But I look forward to talking with you today.
yeah, me too. I appreciate it, Patrick.
For anyone who didn't catch our other episode, I know it was a while ago. There was a lot of people that viewed it. Tell me how your case went with EPA, like what happened that first day, what it was about, and then we'll get into how that progressed into it to where it got finalized here recently.
July 2020, they came to my house, 6 a.m. Guns, battering ram, vests. Open the door and you have a gun in your face. So it was an interesting experience. I give you that. But
What was it in regards to?
truck parts, diesel truck parts, emissions parts, essentially.
So like, because you had was it an online store like to buy parts and ship them
Yep,
out or?
yep.
Okay.
We did mostly like shocks, coilovers, lifts, just gas stuff, diesel, injectors, bumpers. It was kind of like I was trying to be like an aftermarket guru with a little bit of everything on there.
When and I probably asked you this before, but I'm trying to refresh my memory a little bit as well because it's been a while. When they came in, were they looking for like physically parts that were in your home or more paperwork, a little bit of both?
Well, I mean, they took all of my computers, like uh, even like soda switches aren't legal. Unlock cables aren't illegal. They just took everything related to a diesel truck. Just like it didn't matter what, they just swiped it. And like, that has nothing to do with what what we're going up against. And they're like, we don't care, we're taking it anyway. And like they took they took my wife's computer that we literally just got the other day that still had the still had the plastic screen on it. We hadn't even, started turning it on and downloading all the stuff that she wanted on it. So,
What happened? What happened after that day?
uh, I want to say it was almost a year and a half before I was actually indicted. Probably a year later, I was indicted. I know it was November at some point. I think I was indicted in November, and it was like a year later. So July, so almost, yeah, almost a year. I think it was July to November. I was indicted, and then they told me my options. As I can recall, as much as I can recall, it was, they were going after me for 6 felonies, um, for, so they said the removal, but I didn't do any installs or anything, but they just their wordage and the part of the Clean Air Act that they were hitting me with. There's just so much information that I was like, what am I being charged with? And violation of like Title 203, Chapter something, and a bunch of other like Alpha Bravo, whatever. So we did that. Um, I want to say it was it was back and forth for quite some time. Like they would be really into it, and then you wouldn't hear anything for like a couple months, and then they'd be really into it again. Uh, it was it was 4 years before I even turned had to turn myself in to get actually prosecuted, turn yourself in, go to your arraignment. I was released on my own recognizance. I spent 8 hours in a jail cell. That was fun. Um, and then I was released, and then we went back to the table again. And they kept fighting and fighting and fighting back and forth. And, you know, they were going to accept one felony, but everything was a felony, no matter what we did. Like, I mean, there was a time, one of my invoices, I paid $40,000 to the lawyer. And that was like a week's worth of work because they were getting ready to do this big presentation to the EPA. And then 2 days later, like, no, felony, because we were fighting for a misdemeanor the whole time. We were like, look, we can settle this case for a misdemeanor, and they just didn't want to do it. And then, um, so after my arraignment, that was trying to think what that was. That was around not it was before October. That was around probably maybe August, yeah. Because October, so my mother was fighting cancer for a year. Like we found a year early, like November, January time frame. She went into the hospital in January. We knew something was wrong in November, but she wouldn't go to the hospital. Finally, she went to the ER in January and found out she had cancer. And then she died in October. So after that, we were supposed to go to trial December 20th. I want to say December 15th or 20th. I'd have to look at the paperwork, but probably like a week before actual trial was supposed to start. We reached out, my lawyers reached out one last time, like, hey, you know, we can settle this for a misdemeanor. You know, nobody wants to go to trial, et cetera, et cetera. And then they got back to us and they were like, yeah, we'll settle for a misdemeanor. We were like, what the fuck? So I got then it was finding out what level fine I was going to pay. So they were saying it started out at like $350,000, something like that. And once we figured out like how much I actually made after taxes, it got down to 160 some odd thousand, and then AUSA we negotiated. AUSA was like 88,549 and 52 cents. Weird, right? So that's what I ended up with. A year probation, 3 months home confinement, and $88,000 fine.
Hey, Diesel fans, wanted to let you guys know that our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 40% off MSRP code for you. If you go to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code TDP2540, you get your 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money, get some cool gear if you're in the market for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices for blade steel, opening mechanisms, handle designs, and their whole lineup is designed to meet any budget that you might have. So we really appreciate them offering that discount code just for Diesel podcast listeners. So if you're in the market, head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com, use code TDP2540, and get 40% off MSRP. I want to step back for a second to make sure I follow this correctly. So on that day that I think it was in the morning, you had mentioned to me, maybe on the other
It was
podcast.
6 a.m.
Yeah, it was real early in the morning. So these agents show up, they have a search warrant, they come in, you have online part sales, they get all the information. Is the first thing you did after that was contact a lawyer? And then if so,
Yeah,
how hard was it to find one that specialized kind of in this arena?
So it was this is what's interesting. So we did my lawyers in between all this, we have motions to dismiss the case, motions to dismiss certain parts of their findings. So the dismissal of the case was denied by the judge, but he came back and found that my constitutional rights were violated because who can find a so I lived at the time I lived in Norfolk when they came to visit. I was living in Norfolk. So the judge the judge asked the AUSA and the EPA, he's like, you guys have lived here long enough and I've lived here long enough that what law firm is open at 6 a.m. that this man could call and try and get some guidance on him. So pretty much anything I said was thrown out during that time. Um, so that was kind of a plus on our side. And the EPA agents that they'll have a black mark in the record for the rest of their career, so they won't go anywhere.
From that time on, would it? Because you'd mentioned that there were gaps where sometimes you would hear information and then it would be a few months or it'd be a little while. Was what went through your mind? Because I'm sure this is it would be a life changing event, probably a lot of stress, anxiety, unknowns when
You're
this
telling me.
happens. What's it like from after they visit you, not to the end, where everything's settled, but kind of in that middle stage? What was that like?
Just wondering, like, with me with me being military, it's like, okay, so NCIS was involved, so that throws a legal flag onto my record. So I can't do anything from the time this case is going on till it ends and the Navy decides what they want to do. So as it got closer to the end, um, I'm kind of like, sitting in limbo. So I retired November 7th, and there's something called Fleet Reserve that you have to get approved. And mine couldn't get approved because there's a legal flag on my record. So pretty much I can't retire. I can't do any of my retirement things, disability things, anything that, goes toward my retirement and getting ready to retire. So here I am just kind of sitting in limbo. And then we're like, trying to get it done because no, if we couldn't have, gone through it all and got where we wanted to get, November 7th comes around. I just get out of the Navy with my dick in my hand. Nothing, no benefits, nothing. I mean, I could file for disability and stuff like that, but I wouldn't get my 20-year check. So through this whole time, um, we spent buku money, pretty much every dime I had. Um, and it definitely wasn't worth the pain and the hassle and everything else. Like stuff like this happens, you're constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if that car's following you, or that car's coming and they're gonna pull in your driveway and knock on your door, or come out, start asking you questions and doing shit. Like I've heard the stories that they've gone to shops and tried to get them to sell them delete parts, or asking if they can do some tuning or something on their vehicle, stuff like that. But you never know. But during our dismissal hearing, they they were parked outside of my house a week before they actually came and visited me to watch me and like kind of see what time I leave, what time I come home, and what I do. So they timed it. They timed it perfectly because I was literally about to walk out the door and go to work when they came through the door. The judge even asked them, like, why couldn't you guys have come when he got home? They didn't have an answer for it, but
Or I'm curious about this part of it because I've done a few of these episodes over the years, and I think it varies a little bit. And I don't know if maybe you found this out through these proceedings, but did it just involve the EPA, or were there other government agencies or other law enforcement agencies that were involved in this?
uh, just for me, because just NCIS for me, because I'm military, they had to be there. Like Norfolk PD wasn't there, I don't believe was there. They were just federal agents, and the one CID agent, and that's all that showed up. But there was probably 10 to 12 of them.
Does you're the first guest I've had on that is active duty military that had one of these cases. So I'm really curious how if there's any sort of kind of how that process goes. Because normally when I talk with someone that has had an experience with the EPA, it's the EPA, maybe some other agencies, but it's kind of focused on that side. Did they just kind of wait to see what happened with the case, or was it how did they even
Yeah,
overlap
pretty
at all?
much. So pretty much how that would work. If I had gotten, like, say we had ended up getting a felony, uh, that would have been the end of it. I would have been separated from the military administratively, or they would have just let me retire in November and just walk away with nothing. I mean, they still could have taken action against me, but since I was so close to retirement, it kind of they were just kind of like just let them retire. So they didn't take any action against me, which was nice. It was kind of a process. It took like 2 weeks for them to get the legal flag off my record because the CO had to submit a letter to PERS to say that we're not taking any extra action against him. So that's kind of what they were waiting on. So I get to retire. I mean, I'll what they call terminal leave for my retirement. I'll go. I'll end around September, but I won't get my official retirement until November 7th.
When you were going through the process of negotiation, or the lawyers were, what was that like? Because it seemed like they were set on, was it 6 felony charges?
Yeah,
And
it was 6.
so the standing firm on that, and I imagine with that being a possibility, how it would affect your retirement, your military retirement, how it affects personal things, just so much is involved. I imagine that was extremely stressful, probably a lot of anxious moments and unknowns with that negotiation process.
Oh yeah, it was. It was rough not knowing what was going to happen. Like, I mean, no matter what we did, it just in their eyes they were just set on a felony. But then, like, even after my case is still going on, you got them going after other people, and they're getting civilian fines, like administrative. Like other shops. It boggles my mind how off and on it is. Like, this guy's going to get a criminal raid, and then this guy's going to get a administrative fine. Some stuff like that. It just kind of like there's there's just no way to tell which way they're going to go if you get visited. It's like, okay, well, they come visit you and you can get indicted, or you can get a $10,000 fine, even though you sold 7 to 10,000 fucking delete parts. And one guy didn't even have a lawyer. It was January 25th. I can't remember the name of the shop, but he got like a $10,000 fine, and he deleted over like 7,500 trucks. It's on the EPA website if you want to check it out.
With the 6 that they were wanting to charge, or go to trial or court over, was that for like one of them's for a tuner, one of them's for an exhaust pipe, one of them's for this, one of them's for that? So was it a total of like 6 parts that they were charging you over, or did that encompass other things, or how did that shake out?
So it wasn't considered the parts. It was the violation. I violated the Clean Air Act 6 times.
Okay.
So they initially charged me with conspiracy to commit fraud, or whatever it's called. But when they indicted me, that one got dropped. So that was kind of a blessing in disguise, because those ones are pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, yeah, I think you'd mentioned was it December 15th or 20th? Was out of 2024 that this was going to progress farther, and that's when the lawyer reached out one more time and said, "Hey, can we negotiate it for this?" And they said, "Yeah, yeah, we'll do it."
Um, I'd have to look back. I can't remember the exact dates, but I think so. Yes, because our court date was originally in April. So we moved it. We had to move it to the right a couple times. But yeah, it was. I was supposed to go to trial in December.
When the news came down that they would do a misdemeanor, and the fine, and some of the other things, what did you think that first moment you heard it?
I was like, "Holy shit, is this real?" I gotta say, I had Stewart Cables. I had a local lawyer, Katie Doherty. She was amazing. And then Sidley Law Firm. I can't say enough good. about those guys. Justin Savage's team, they're really good lawyers. Like they're amazing. A lot of them are retired military too, which was pretty cool. So they kind of told me straightforward, how it was, what was going to happen, and they didn't bullshit me like some lawyers do. So they're great. And I can't think like Stewart went above and beyond for me. He did more than he needed to do. Because he's the one who found Sidley for me.
Was it hard to find, or did you run into instances where maybe a local lawyer wasn't familiar or hadn't done a case before where it was about
Well,
truck
so
parts?
with the local lawyer, you have to have a local lawyer because not all lawyers are what they call admitted into that courthouse. So that's why the local lawyer is needed for that. Because Sidley's out of Washington D.C. And they weren't admitted into the court, so we found a local lawyer that would just do my case for a flat fee. So that was nice.
So where do looking back on it, and then taking the present and the future, like where do you go from here? Is it something where you're gonna get like completely out of any parts, not even go down that road any longer? What are you thinking for the future?
Right now, it's I've been kind of dwelling on just kind of shutting the business down for a little while and deciding what I'm going to do. I mean, I retire in a few months, so I got to get a job. So kind of just trying to figure it out. Um, probably shut the business down for a little bit and go work for somebody. If me and my wife decide to move back home, back Wilmington area, if I get a job with, I got some resumes out there with some local companies for being a mechanic. So we'll see what happens. See if I get one of them.
Is if you were to if you were to pick what you could do, because it's like you had one career in the military for so long, and then you
Yeah,
have
20 years is a lot.
yeah,
It's like you do something for so long. It's what you know. It's what you enjoy. Like over the years, I've enjoyed being a diesel mechanic. I like fixing things. I like taking things apart. The biggest thing is doing it as a job every day. It takes the fun out of it being as a hobby. And I don't want to do that. Like right now, I'm working a couple jobs on some Marine 6BTs, 596BTs. So and I enjoy it. I still enjoy doing it. The good thing about owning the business is I don't have to do it every day. I can pick and choose what jobs I want to do.
yeah, yeah. It's in a way, I guess, kind of exciting in that it's a new chapter, something you can kind of pick and decide what direction you want to go. But I remember from our last podcast and chatting with you that the mechanical aspect to it is something that you really enjoy, and there's so much opportunity out there to go different directions with it that kind of
There
pick.
is. I mean, you know, there the career opportunities for like technicians, you got, pipe fitters, welders, crane operators. Those AI is never going to take those away. I mean, but if you're sitting at a desk as a customer service agent, stuff like that, yeah, they could take that over. But anything, anything technician wise, you're always going to have a job. Trucks are always going to need to be fixed. Cars are always going to need to be repaired. Because not everybody likes doing what we do.
Or like me, and I'm not good at
You can always
it.
learn. Nobody was good at it when they first started. I
Some
mean, you gotta crawl before you walk, and just take one thing at a time. Like start with oil changes, stuff like that, and then you get into more sophisticated stuff like rebuilding engines. That was like when I was in the Navy, uh, way back, probably I want to say like 2010, 2011, and it was like that was the enjoyable part of being in the military is getting to fix everything, like fix a pump, um, repair a rib engine, Cummins QSB, 6BT, 6BTA, whatever we had in the boat at the time. Um, and that was like, I really enjoyed turning wrenches, learning and doing this. So that was kind of 2013 is when I started my business, and we've been going up until now. So I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna stop with the part side of things, and kind of just focus on the mechanic side of things and doing jobs when I want to until we either sell our house and move, or I find a job around here. I mean, because there's jobs. I can get a job. That won't be an issue.
Yeah, there's always the high demand for expertise and in that trade, and there's so many, like on this podcast we talk about pickup trucks, but that's
Yeah,
only a small sliver of what's out there for diesel engines and applications and all these all this equipment and other stuff that needs to be worked on, and it's such a bigger market than even what we focus on the podcast.
yeah. It was like, I mean, like, so today I was work. I have this other job I'm working on. After my other job, but today was Juneteenth, so we had today off. So I went over there and I was talking to another guy, and he owns like a truck service, and he's got all these trucks, and he was telling me about them and all the issues they had, and he was like, "Well, there's one here, and it's got a Volvo engine." So I was stationed at the Naval Academy, and we had our emergency diesel or our power diesels we had for propulsion was they were Volvos, and um, our diesel generators were Volvos. And I was, just telling him all the stuff that I've worked on over the years. And he was like, "Hey, come out here and come fix some of this stuff." So I was like, "All right, cool, yeah." As soon as I finish this job, and I got another job lined up starting this weekend. I gotta fix a tractor, so I can stay busy if I want to. Like I can work 12, 14-hour days. It's kind of what I've been doing the past couple of weeks on this boat, and um, helping a buddy out with some of the stuff he's doing. So
Hey, diesel fans, I wanted to chat with you about diesel fuel. It's something we've talked about a lot on the podcast, and specifically ways that it can lead to a lot of costly repairs. And the main reason that we have these issues is a lack of lubricity. Our friends over at Hot Shot Secrets have developed a formula that boosts performance and then addresses this issue. So whether you have an old truck, new one, something anywhere in between, we all face this issue. Hot Shots EDT is a 6-in-1 formula. It cleans injectors, boosts cetane, and it has 4 times the lubricity as their leading competitor. So it's a great way to be able to stay ahead of the maintenance curve, avoid those costly repairs, and the best part is it does the work for you. So all you do is add it to your regular fuel up schedule, and it's doing all the heavy lifting. So you don't have to worry about some of those issues that just come with diesel fuel anytime we buy it from the pump. If you go to hotshotsecret.com, use code DIESELPOD20. It'll get you 20% off your order. We really appreciate the team and our friends over at Hot Shot Secret offering this discount code just for you guys. So if you're in the market, head on over to their website, use code DIESELPOD20, and get 20% off your order. Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Power Stroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street, tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. And this is kind of unrelated to the topic. Well, I guess it's tied into the topic of the podcast, but I was going to ask you, what is your favorite engine to work on?
100% the Cummins. Marine Cummins engines. Everything but the QSB. I don't like the QSB because of the electronics. But like 6BTA, 6BT, 4BT, any of them. They're just so easy to diagnose, so easy to work on. Like you take a metal rod and put it on the starter solenoid and you can start the engine.
Yeah, they're so simple. It's one of the big things, I think, on the truck side where people who are familiar with them in agriculture, industrial applications, things like that,
Yeah.
And now you got a truck with it, back in the 90s and stuff. It's like, I think it helped to build that fan following or that loyalty base, of that engine. And I know on the automotive side, people like to work on them because they're simpler, they're easier to get to the parts, either, get to different components.
It's kind of crazy you mentioned that because I got a new raw water pump for this engine and it didn't come with a new gasket. So I was like, okay, I looked it up and I went to Advance this morning and 1983 D250, I think all the way through 94 uses that same exact pump with the same gasket. So the gasket is like $4, whatever, but that gasket fit the water pump. So there's a lot of interchangeable parts with these ones, vice the other ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think of like head studs and the year range those are good for on the Cummins trucks and different components. It definitely streamlines it. Like if you were to look back on this situation, would you change anything you did? Like, would you have still started your own business back in 2013? Would you not have done it? Would you have stuck maybe on the industrial side, like the repair side, like you mentioned? Or would there be anything you would have done differently?
I still would have started my business, but like if I knew what I knew now, I never would have touched tuning parts or anything related to it. Like if I had the knowledge I have now and everything that it's caused and all the shit I've been through, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have been like, nope, not even going there.
Do you find?
It's always been enjoyable. Like just working on stuff, or somebody on the phone needs technical assistance with something, they have an issue, code whatever, code on their vehicle popped up, stuff like that.
Do you find when you're on social media and reading comments or posts or videos or anything that you might see out there that maybe that some people don't take this seriously? I kind of get that impression myself, like doing these episodes when I hear these stories, like what you went through, had the other shop owner on the other day. I've done a bunch of them over the years, and it's not like I particularly like doing them, but you don't hear about this side of it, so I feel obligated, and I want people to have a platform to tell a story about their experiences. And sometimes I get the impression some people out there, I don't know what the right phrase to use, but it's not taken seriously, or they don't think it happens, or they don't think people are prosecuted, or
they don't think it's going to happen to them. But when it happens to them, it's like, well, shit. And it's like you said, like social media. I've 100% gone on social media probably a good 100 times and said, you probably shouldn't be doing this, and tell them my situation, tell them you don't want to go through what I went through. And I told you better have fucking 500 grand in your bank account if you want to fight them. Otherwise, you're getting a felony and a fine. You know, I mean, we locked out, and I know I think I'm one of the very few that has gotten a misdemeanor, even after they've charged you with, a felony in advance. So if it's one thing, I'm happy about that. Now, the $88,000 fine, they get 5% of my paycheck because that's what the judge agreed upon. If I pay for the rest of my life, I pay for the rest of my life. It is what it is.
It was something that Stuart Cables had mentioned to us on a couple different conversations was how varied, and there's no particular way he can tell as a lawyer whether it's going to be a civil fine or whether it's going to go criminal, and sort of how recently it's been more criminal because they think, well, people know that there's been these cases out there, they know they're not supposed to do it, whereas
Exactly.
earlier
Like
on it was more civil penalties.
you can't play the stupid game anymore. There's been enough there's been enough federal felony cases that, oh, I didn't know it was no, can't do that no more. That one's gone out the window. Like, and if I could tell you, it's if you get caught doing it, that's your own stupidity. Good luck, bud. Because after my experience of going through it, I have no sympathy for you because you have been warned. If you're on social media, you see the posts. Like, so there's one guy on YouTube I cannot stand is TK Garage. He keeps putting out this stupid bullshit about deletes becoming illegal, and you're going to be able to tune your truck and blow smoke again. No, you're not. As long as Congress keeps the Clean Air Act the way it is still illegal. It is still a felony. It is still federal. Now, it was never supposed to be the way that they're doing it, but they operate in this little gray area where they have carte blanche. They can come after you criminally or civilly. Just don't be stupid. Don't do it. Don't think that you're going to get over on the government because one day they will come find you, regardless if you think you're being, smooth and hiding it. Because you're going to get that one person that contacts you, and literally that it was a phone call from somebody on Facebook. Called me up, asked for some parts. I'm like, yep, I got them. And a few months later, I got nabbed. Now, did I know it was completely illegal? No, I didn't know fully. I didn't like being in this situation. The worst I ever thought I was going to get was a fine. But here I am. I have a misdemeanor that's going to be on my record for the rest of my life. Luckily, it's not a felony. So
Yeah, it's definitely it's kind of a difficult situation because I get a lot of information from different sources. Like we've had our conversations. I've had Stuart on. I've had other shop owners
yeah,
on, and I read all the comments that we get on videos, and I take those to heart with where people are coming from on it. And I think the one thing that it all comes back to, like you mentioned, is the Clean Air Act and how long it's been there and what was voted on by Congress, signed by a president, all those things. And I guess it just never, it didn't strike the diesel industry till maybe the last 10, 15 years or so.
probably the last. I think
15.
when things started getting bad was when what was it, H&S? H&S got like 1.5 billion or something ridiculous, and then Derived Systems was right behind them. Whole bunch of them got they're the big ones that got those massive fines. And then who was after that? PPEI. They got nasty with PPEI, but I know he settled his case and he's still fighting to make some changes, and never know what's going to happen there. But I mean, I'm just gonna go on day by day. It's not gonna bother me any, you know. It sucks. It really sucks. And if I could tell anybody, you know, if you're doing it just as a side gig, don't. Just like Hardway Performance got nabbed again. Um, they pulled him over in Florida because of somebody else's stupidity with those SBA COVID loans, whatever. And he had to pay a $75,000 fine, and he got a felony.
It's definitely a different it's a different market from what it used to be. And I did a really
100%.
there was a conversation I had with Corey Willis. It wasn't very popular. I think it was in 2021 or no, I think it was in 2020 actually. And he was saying then like, don't do it, don't go down this road, focus on the emission stuff. And it wasn't popular with people that were watching it on YouTube and commenting. But a lot of the stuff he talked about 5 years ago, we've seen play out in different parts of this industry, not just individuals, but then also customers and big companies. I mean, even fleets, other things. It's so prevalent that it's one of the reasons that I enjoy these type of conversations is so that people have awareness, they know what's going on out there, and maybe someone out there's thinking of getting into the parts game or building a website or doing a diesel shop. And I know, truck owners they're going to ask about this stuff. They're going to want it. They're going to say, put this on my truck, do this, do this, do this. And you don't necessarily hear about this side of it. With what you spent, I don't know how much you spent total, with your lawyer fees and the time and everything else. Like,
oh God, yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Let's just say between 300,000 and 500,000. And that was over 5 years, and I want to say it was in I think it was in 2023. We had run out of liquidable cash, so took a second mortgage out of my house while we were waiting on that money to come through. Diesel community actually came together. We raised $13,000 to pay my invoices. So it was big, man. It meant a lot to me for everybody. And one of the biggest things, Corey Willis shared it, and Jesus, it just everybody started donating because he's got a huge following, and for him to do that for me, it meant a lot. So I owe him a big thanks.
What kind of feedback did you hear from people when you did that? Like from people who donated or people who saw it?
I mean, it was like, damn, dude, really? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I pulled up and, it's not just getting hit once, it's getting hit twice because, I had money in stocks. I had to pull from my retirement. My wife had to pull from her retirement. I sold everything I had, and we blew through our savings. So it's like, it's not something, a $900 an hour lawyer adds up really fucking quick. And then I don't remember when, but Sidley came on board and they took my case pro bono because I want to say we were probably down to our last 50 grand after we did our house, took the second mortgage on our house, and Stuart calls me up one night. He's like, "Hey, I got some good news." And again, Stuart went out of his way. He didn't have to do all that, but he did. So he's the one that found them. He's the one that got them to take my case pro bono. Then after that, it was like, it's a huge weight lifted off your shoulders because at that point, okay, you got $50,000 left. What do you do? There's no lawyer that's going to go to trial for $50,000. You're looking at $100,000 just that trial, just doing a trial. You're looking at $100,000. That's what I was told. They would need $100,000, 85 to $100,000 roughly. So it was a huge, huge weight off our back. But still fighting them suck because it takes its toll on you. Just wondering what's going to happen, and it felt like it just felt like they were stringing us along with a carrot for misdemeanor because there were so many times that we filled statements out like, okay, when did this happen? Like, you affected some admit to affecting somebody from your truck or what you did, and they were like, oh, that's not severe. That's not severe enough. Um, one of the worst things is the CID agent that was there referenced me to a fucking drug dealer. Like when they came in my house, it's insane. Are you serious? And my wife just kind of laughed. He's like, well, you know. And I just walked away. I was like, this guy's out of his mind. I can't believe he just said that. Like,
Do you think it's because when the way that it's treated or handled at this level, that's typically what they might be used to dealing with? So when they're going there to see what truck parts you might have, like in your living room or in your garage or what's on a laptop, they're looking at it through the scope of other sort of things they go after.
they knew I was military. They knew what I did for a living. They did like I'm not some guy that sells, you know, crack cocaine or fentanyl out of my back door. They knew. I mean, they did not like he so the federal agent said it was standard procedure to do what they did. And I'm like, really? Well, you think I'm gonna pull a gun on 12 federal agents? You knock on my door, show me a warrant, and I'd have been like, okay, come inside. It, like you open your door and you have a gun to your face, you're like, what the fuck did I do?
So
Is
that's
way over. Like, I mean, you know, maybe some other they've they've encountered some other hard people and stuff, but you know, I'm not the type of guy that's just gonna do something stupid and, you know, ruin my military retirement. Because that's all I was shooting for at the time. I just wanted to retire and get out.
I think you phrased it better than I did. So that's what I was wondering is if the standard operating procedure is to treat them all like this. Um,
It is
yeah.
because every shop that gets hit like that on the criminal side, they show up in, you know, bulletproof vests, gun drawn, and you know, walk in your house and you're like, "Where's the warrant?" So the CID agent didn't give me the warrant until he was sitting down at my dining room table and showed me the warrant, and I'm like, "Well, this is a, you know, this is just kind of like a blanket verbiage." And so he's like, "Well, there's more paperwork," and they had the amendments of why they were there, and I'm like, "Okay." Um, so when we were going to trial, like they subpoenaed my customers. They were ready to go to trial. So I still kind of wonder why they didn't because they had some witnesses that were going to be forced to come to Virginia and testify.
I'd like to ask you about that part of it. Is I had a recent episode where I was talking with a shop owner, and he had mentioned that they had contacted some of his customers, and it was the first time I had heard of it in talking or doing podcasts about it. Not that I'm not extremely heavy into what's going on, you know, with this topic, but it just took me aback because I think I even asked Stuart. Listeners have wanted me to ask forever, like, do they go after truck owners? And he's always said, well, no, they're kind of focused more in on companies and the parts and the resellers. So when I heard that, not that a truck owner was being charged with something, but that they were being involved in the case, it just was like, whoa.
So um, there was a guy in it was either New Jersey or Pennsylvania that was selling his truck on marketplace that he had bought deleted. Um, and the EPA actually came to his house. They fined him and said that they red flagged his VIN, his registration, and everything, so he wouldn't be able to re-register it. So he could spend $10,000 on a what $10,000 truck and put the emission system back on it, or um, he could go get it squished at the salvage yard. So he the agent never showed up to getting the truck crushed, but it was a white truck, and he had spray painted fuck the EPA and fuck DOT.
I think I remember reading about that somewhere. It might have been.
Yeah, I talked to the guy. I was like, man, that's insane. That was
With
like the only time I've ever heard somebody on Marketplace that had got hit like that.
with your customers, so they had reached. They were going to be part of. I guess it would be a trial if you had went to trial as far as parts or whatever pertained to their personal vehicle. That was going to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah, like whatever I sold them, and I mean it was my lawyers told me they would be pretty much just ask the person, did he sell you this? Did he sell you this? Did he give you technical assistance? So the misdemeanor I got was criminal intent under the Clean Air Act. But even now, some of the guys that got hit, they're still hard off on a felony. Like they're not coming off a felony.
Yeah, it's definitely. I remember your story in the podcast we did originally was shocking in itself. I think there were lots of parts of it, but I remember you describing how you were leaving for work that morning, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
there's all these people outside, and what took place, and then 5 years. Like I said, it felt like a couple to me, but I think like time just flies by, I guess. But
yeah. I think I talked to you a year, probably like a year, maybe a year after I got hit, year and a half, roughly.
yeah, it's definitely a difficult experience, and I appreciate you reaching out to be able to finish the story. How it turned out, what the
Yeah,
process was like.
I know we were supposed to do this 6 to 8 months ago, but that was as I explained, that was in between taking my mom to her cancer treatments and stuff. So my schedule was kind of crazy at the time, so we pushed it off until later. But
I'm
it's
glad,
over, and that's all I really care about.
yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you reached out to tell your story, describe the experience. Like I said, I like to offer our platform as a way to tell different sides of this, and it's so hard to find this information, or it's not necessarily really engaging where you can ask questions, or I could go on a tangent, or you can bring something up that involves it to create a clearer picture of what has been going on for a long time, but how it's evolved now into what it is.
It's like a lot of people a lot of the guys that I've talked to that have been hit. Joe Easter at All Out Diesel. We become pretty good friends over the whole thing. We have some laughs every now and then about everything that's happened. Like the way he got hit, almost the same way I did, but he got hit at his shop, and it's just like certain things. Like with the agents, the way they come in, and they rush in, grab this, grab that, and so when they came to my house, at the time I had a 2019 Ram 2500, and it still had the emissions on it. And I told the guy, I was like, it's got emissions present tuning on it. It's legal. And he was like, well, I'm gonna take the ECU, and I'm like, the fuck you are. I'm like, you're gonna write me a $65,000 check before you even touch it. And so they decided not to take my ECU out of the truck. But I mean, I had nothing to hide there. But they took I didn't really get anything back but my electronics. So um, I know EasyLink won a part of their case against the government about being just a you know cloud platform, just a way to do things, and how people use it is it was deemed that it was, not their responsibility, that they were just a platform to tune trucks. And I mean, a lot of people use it for emissions on or emissions present tuning, and the way they go after them, like, oh, he liked to post on Facebook. So the fuck what? Or easy link hearted. How do I do this on easy link from or for my deleted truck? Like, it boggles my mind. Like, they tried to throw everything at them, but at least they won that part. I think still have another part going on. I'd have to look it up, but it's been a while.
Well, again, John, I appreciate you keeping us in mind, reaching out to us to finish telling your story and your experience with it. If people want to, maybe they have a question for you, maybe they want to connect with you. What are ways they can reach out
Oh,
to you
you
on
can
social media?
just send me a message. Send me a message on Facebook. I'll respond. I respond to everybody. Anybody that has a question or needs something, just hit me up on Messenger. I'll give you my phone number from there. If you want to talk on the phone. I mean,
How do they find you on Facebook?
uh, they can just look up Jon Long. Just look up my name, and I'm sure, like, so most people in the diesel community are blue collar, and most of them are friends with Corey Willis or friends with somebody I may know. And they can just reach out. If not, you can also just I still have my Open Wide Performance Instagram. Or my Facebook page is still up too, so they can go on there.
Well, I appreciate your time today, John, and chatting with us, sharing your experience, your story. Wish you the best here as you approach retirement. Hope you find what you're looking for in the mechanical world. Keep me updated. Let me know how things are going, and maybe we can do a podcast in the future about something entirely different.
Maybe, hey, never know. Maybe it'll be the Clean Air Act being repaired, where they can take out certain things and actually make the verbiage understandable for everybody.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code TDP2540. It'll get you 40% off MSRP. It's a great way to save some money and get some cool gear if you're in the market for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices for blade steel, blade shape, different opening mechanisms, handle designs. And their whole lineup's designed to meet any budget that you might have. So if you're in the market, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com and use code TDP2540 for 40% off MSRP. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Lowe in a 23 Diesel, Cutter Up Rob, Robert, all of other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps. Follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 9 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2025. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.